Am I the asshole for naming my child behind my wife's back? My wife and I recently had a baby. A sweet baby girl, an absolute ball of joy. We started discussing names a few months before she was born, but kept getting into arguments because we couldn't come to an agreement. I'm a traditional man and like traditional names with a rich history and profound meaning. My wife, on the other hand, wants to name her child something unique, something no one else on earth will think of. Some of her suggestions are h0le, Joji, Yaba, and Buzza. Anyone can see they're ridiculous and she'll probably never land a respectable job. By the way, we're both Caucasian, so these aren't cultural names. Am I the asshole for naming my child behind my wife's back? I suggested some names like Amelia, Ella, and Sophia, but she said those were too common. We put off the topic, but naturally after she was born, we started talking about it again. She insisted on Buzza, but I absolutely refused. I told her no one will take her seriously with a name like that, and that she was just pursuing the novelty of the name without thinking about what actually works for her. I saw that she was set on the name and there was no convincing her otherwise. The next morning, I went by myself to register our daughter's name because I was worried my wife would go and do it first. I chose a pretty name that wasn't old-fashioned, but she was furious. Am I the asshole for telling my son I was disappointed after he and his wife lied about my grandson's birthday? My nephew told me and I immediately called my son and he confirmed it. He and his wife lied, then hid the date of birth from the family. I told him this was not acceptable, lying just because they didn't want a welcoming party and love and support being given from family. I told him I was disappointed because for one, he ruined our welcoming for our grandbaby, and also I invited family members and they're all rightfully disappointed as well. He said it was because I kept pushing and making his wife uncomfortable. We argued and he said I was ruining the joy for his newborn. Now he's mad at my nephew for tattling. Am I the asshole for telling my son I was disappointed after he and his wife lied about my grandson's birthday? My son, 23, and his wife just had a baby boy. When my daughter-in-law was pregnant, I suggested that I host a welcoming party for my grandson right after she got discharged from the hospital. I've made arrangements and even emptied a room for them to stay in, but for some reason she was against it. She said she'd rather spend the first few weeks at home with her newborn. Not only that, but she said no to the welcoming party. My husband and I talked to my son and he said we'll see. But just a couple days ago, we found out that my daughter-in-law gave birth 2 weeks ago and no one knew about it. Am I the asshole for not waking my boyfriend, which made him late to his first day at a new job? I, 28 female, have lived with my boyfriend, 30 male, for 3 years now. When I first stayed the night and he overslept, I woke him up. He woke up in a bad mood and after a big fight made it absolutely clear that I should not wake him up even if I knew he'd be late to a meeting with the Pope, his words. After I calmed down, I wrote a contract that said I would never wake him up under any circumstances short of an emergency as long as he never blames me for oversleeping. He laughed and then signed it. Fast forward to yesterday, he started a new job and celebrated the night before with some guys online but had to wake up at 7 a.m. Am I the asshole for not waking my boyfriend, which made him late to his first day at a new job? Fast forward to yesterday. He just started a new job and celebrated the night before playing with some guys online. Mind you, he had to wake up by 7 a.m. I woke up at 5 a.m. like usual, did my stuff, and by that time it was 7 a.m. and he didn't wake up. I left the house at 8:15 and he was still asleep. When I got back, he was there and very angry and started shouting and blaming me for being late. He said I should have woke him up when I noticed he overslept. I stayed silent until he stopped shouting, then showed him the paper that he signed. I said I will never wake him up and he can set an alarm like an adult. Am I the asshole for refusing to go with my 16-year-old daughter to her father's funeral? My ex-husband passed away 2 days ago at the age of 36. My daughter begged that I go with her to the funeral because she doesn't know anyone there and needs my support and guidance. I refused because I didn't feel comfortable, and then seeing my former in-laws, it's just not worth the pain. Plus her grandparents and her younger uncle that she adores so much will be there, so that's good enough. I also offered to have my brother drive her there and return her home, but she refused and kept begging that I go with her. I told her no and that I have my reasons, and that's it. She unloaded on me yesterday, calling me bitter and selfish. Am I the asshole for refusing to go with my 16-year-old daughter to her father's funeral? She said that my hatred for her dad is still there and it's disgusting. I was really hurt and had an argument with her, but didn't punish her for what she said. I know she is grieving and is processing her father's passing. I just cut the argument and told her to go upstairs, and she went inside her room and refused to come out for lunch and dinner. My boyfriend tried to stay with her and get her to eat, but she refused. He told me this is obviously something my daughter's not dealing with properly and suggested I go to the funeral. He then said if I don't go, there will most likely be lasting resentment from my daughter. So, am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for making a harmless joke about my daughter's acne? This happened a few days ago. I, 43 male, have a daughter, 16 female, that is obviously going through puberty just like any other teen. She's seeing a lot of changes in her body, most recently acne in her face and arms. I try to be supportive, and I have bought her special soaps and creams to help her control it, although I haven't seen much difference. The other day at the dining table, she was complaining to her mom about how the soaps I bought haven't been working and she feels uncomfortable. She asked if we could take her to the dermatologist to help with her acne. I then told her she should befriend the pimples since nothing she's been doing helped and they wanted to be part of her. Am I the asshole for making a harmless joke about my daughter's acne? I then told her she should befriend the pimples since nothing's been helping and they want to be a part of her. Mind you, all in a very sarcastic tone. I thought my daughter and wife would take it as is, humor, but they got really mad at me and my daughter stormed to her bedroom. My wife then scolded me, telling me I was a bad father while also telling me to apologize because those comments can affect her. I told them I was just joking and they should stop being party poopers and killing the mood. My daughter hasn't talked to me since that day and my wife thinks I'm a huge asshole for what I did. She's now only talking to me to tell me to apologize. Am I the asshole? You're gonna want to listen to this one the whole way through. Am I the asshole for honestly telling my girlfriend what I would change about her? I watched a video where a couple asked each other what they would change about each other and they both said nothing and they're both perfect and they love each other very much. So I thought, let me try this with my girlfriend without filming, of course. She said, I wouldn't change anything about you. Maybe I would make you less anxious about everyday stuff so you wouldn't suffer. It's true, I tend to be anxious and obsessive compulsive sometimes, but I'm dealing with it. Then she asked me and I said I would like her to have her old body back, meaning before the pandemic when she was more muscular and a little bit thinner. Also less hairy sometimes. Am I the asshole for telling my girlfriend what I would change about her? I said I would like for her to have her old body back when she was more muscular and a little thinner. Also that she could be less hairy and I wish her hair was more cared for. I wouldn't change anything fundamental, maybe make her legs a little thinner, but all my requests are very achievable with a little effort. Her expression changed and she locked herself in the room without saying anything. We slept on different beds and the next day she said, I don't think that your appearance is perfect either. There are some issues, but I love you enough to not pester you about them. I asked what she meant and she said she wished I followed her skincare advice to get rid of my acne and I could work out more. I said the difference is that I was honest and she lied. Am I the asshole for punishing my son for throwing away my husband's Bible? My husband, 37, and my son, 16, fight a lot. I try to intervene, but my husband asked me to stay out of it while he works it out with my son. Each time they fight or argue, my husband comes up with a new nickname to call my son till they fight again or till my son apologizes. Names like dipstick, stone cold embarrassment, ass clown, imbecile, dweeb, etc. Since their last fight, my husband's calling him ass clown. My son spoke up about how annoying it was and threatened my husband that if he doesn't stop, he'll throw away something of his. Days ago, my son had friends over while I was out and my husband called him ass clown in front of all of them. Am I the asshole for punishing my son for throwing away my husband's Bible? My husband later called me panicking, saying my son took his Bible after their fight and refused to give it back. I went home and asked my son what happened and he said that my husband embarrassed him by calling him that in front of his friends. I said I talked to my husband about it later and asked him to give the Bible back. He said he threw it out and I said that was offensive to his stepdad and his religion. I punished him and took his allowance for the rest of the month. He argued that this was unfair because my husband started it. My husband promised this will all stop if my husband gets properly punished for what he did. My son got my ex-mother-in-law involved and she tried to come to the house and yell at me. Am I the asshole for calling my friend an idiot for wanting a maternity test? My friend Dan recently found out he might be a father. I say might because the girl he's been having an on and off relationship with, Cara, is pregnant. She offered to get a paternity test once the baby's born and doesn't expect any kind of support until they find out if the baby's his. He's on board with that and appreciates that she's not pushing him into fatherhood if the baby isn't his. The issue is that he says he wants to get a maternity test to see if the baby is hers. Kara is visibly pregnant. We know she's pregnant because she did a maternity photo shoot and posted it on social media. We've also seen her in person. Am I the asshole for calling my friend an idiot for wanting a maternity test? We've both seen her in person and she's definitely pregnant. However, Dan believes that the baby might not be hers. I tried to explain to him that that's not how biology works, and unless she got an embryo implanted, that's definitely the mother. And also, she works as a waitress. I doubt she has the money to afford that. It's ridiculous to think she'd do all that just to trap a guy who's unemployed and living with his parents at 32. Plus, he's never donated sperm. He's still genuinely convinced there's a possibility even after talking to me, family, and friends. I ended up calling him a senseless idiot. Now him and some friends are saying I'm insensitive.